Have you ever noticed something strange? Two people walk into a room. One is young, loud, perfectly dressed, trying to be seen. The other is over 60, calm, quiet, almost invisible at first glance. And yet, people slowly gravitate toward the second one. They listen more carefully. They feel safer around them. They respect them without knowing why. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Attraction after 60 is not about skin, not about fashion, not about trying to impress. It's about presence. After 60, something changes. You stop chasing validation. You stop performing for applause. You stop bending yourself to fit into rooms that never deserved you. And that becomes magnetic. Society may worship youth, but life respects depth. In today's video, we're going to talk about something powerful. After 60, these silent qualities make you irresistibly attractive. Not loud attractiveness, not superficial charm, but the kind of attraction that makes people trust you, admire you, feel drawn to you, without you saying a word. If you are over 60, this video will remind you of your power. If you are younger, this will show you what real attractiveness actually looks like. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because here, we don't just talk about aging, we talk about power, dignity, wisdom, and transformation. Now, let's go deep. 1. Emotional control. After 60, emotional control is not suppression. It is mastery. It is the quiet power of someone who has cried enough tears, fought enough battles, and lost enough sleep to understand one simple truth: not every reaction deserves your energy. In your 20s, someone insults you, and your heart races. In your 30s, someone disrespects you, and you feel the need to defend your ego. In your 40s and 50s, you argue to prove you're right. But after 60, you look at them, and you see their pain instead of their attack. That is evolution. Imagine this. Someone at a family gathering makes a sarcastic comment about your age. Years ago, that would have ruined your evening. You would replay it in your mind, searching for the perfect comeback. Now, you take a slow breath. You smile gently, and you change the subject, not because you're weak, but because you're no longer available for emotional chaos. That level of control is rare, and rarity is attractive. When someone tries to provoke you and you remain steady, it does something powerful. It unsettles people who thrive on reaction. It exposes immaturity without you saying a word. Your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting their lack of control. That is strength. Emotional stability after 60 often comes from survival. You've endured heartbreak that shattered you. You've faced financial pressure that kept you awake at night. You've buried loved ones. You've been betrayed. You've been misunderstood. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still standing, still composed. When you've survived real storms, you don't panic over small rain, and people feel that. They feel it when they sit beside you and their anxiety softens. They feel it when they come to you with problems, because you don't react dramatically. Your presence doesn't add fuel to the fire, it calms it. Your calmness becomes a shelter. In a world addicted to outrage, where people argue in comment sections and destroy relationships over opinions, someone who can pause before responding is magnetic. Think about it. Who do people trust more? The person who shouts the loudest, or the one who listens, thinks, and then speaks slowly? After 60, if you've learned to pause before reacting, you possess something younger generations are desperately trying to learn through therapy and self-help books. You don't explode over small misunderstandings because you've realized something profound. Most conflicts are temporary, but damaged dignity can last forever. You choose dignity. You choose peace. And here's the deeper truth. Emotional control doesn't mean you don't feel anger, hurt, or disappointment. It means you've built enough inner strength to hold those emotions without letting them spill everywhere. That containment, that grounded presence, makes you deeply attractive. Because safety is one of the most powerful forms of attraction. When people feel safe around you, they relax, they open up, they respect you, they admire you even if they can't explain why. After 60, emotional control is not just maturity. It is magnetism. It is the quiet statement that says, I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to fear. And I refuse to let small minds disturb my big peace. And that is irresistibly powerful. 2. The confidence of experience. You've survived heartbreak that felt like it would stop your heart. You faced nights where the ceiling was your only witness when you questioned your choices, your worth, your future. You've watched money disappear, opportunities collapse, relationships break apart. You've trusted people who betrayed you. You've buried dreams you once believed would define your life. And yet, you are still here, still breathing, still walking, still carrying yourself with dignity. That is not ordinary. That is earned confidence. After 60, confidence no longer comes from appearance, titles, or applause. It comes from survival. It comes from knowing that you have been broken before and rebuilt yourself. There's something incredibly attractive about a person who has scars, but doesn't weaponize them. You don't sit around telling everyone how much you suffered. You don't constantly remind the world of what you endured. But it shows. It shows in the way you sit grounded, unshaken. It shows in the way you speak slow, measured, certain. It shows in the way you don't panic when things go wrong, because you've seen worse. Imagine a young person stressing over a minor setback, a delayed payment, a disagreement, a mistake at work. They feel like the world is ending. And then they look at you. You don't dismiss their pain. You don't mock their fear. But your calm presence says something powerful. This too shall pass. Why? Because you've lived long enough to know that almost everything passes. You've seen economies crash and recover. You've seen relationships fall apart and new ones form. You've seen yourself at your weakest and still survive. That kind of confidence cannot be purchased. It cannot be imitated. It cannot be filtered on social media. It is built through decades of experience. And experience makes you solid. Solid like a mountain that has endured storms for centuries. The wind may hit you, but it does not move you easily. People feel that steadiness when they stand near you. They trust it. They lean on it. There is a powerful beauty in someone who has nothing left to prove. You don't brag about your achievements because you no longer need validation. You don't exaggerate your stories because the truth is enough. You don't compete with younger people because you understand something they are still learning. Life is not about appearing strong. It's about becoming strong. And becoming strong takes time. After 60, your confidence is quieter but deeper. It doesn't demand attention. It commands respect. When you walk into a room, you don't try to dominate it, but people notice you. Not because you are loud, but because you are grounded. Your posture says, I've lived. It says, I've lost and survived. It says, I've failed and learned. And there is nothing more attractive than someone who has faced life honestly and come out wiser instead of bitter. That's the difference. Some people age and become angry. Others age and become wise. If you've chosen wisdom, that glow is undeniable. Your wrinkles are not weakness. They are evidence. Your slower steps are not fragility. They are patience. Your silence is not emptiness. It is depth. And depth is magnetic. After 60, your confidence is not about how high you can climb. It's about how much you can withstand. And when people feel that strength in you, they don't just see you. They respect you. They trust you. They are drawn to you. Because true confidence is not loud. It is lived. 3. You don't compete anymore. There was a time when you measured your life against others. Who earned more? Who looked younger? Whose children were more successful? Who achieved milestones faster? Comparison was silent, but constant. It sat in the background of your mind, whispering, are you ahead or are you behind? But after 60, something shifts. You begin to understand a truth that takes decades to realize. Life was never a race. It was a path. And no two paths were meant to look the same. You no longer compete with younger people trying to prove you're still relevant. You don't dye your wisdom away to look trendy. You don't chase trends to feel included. You don't exhaust yourself trying to show that you're still better. Because you've already fought your battles. You've already climbed mountains. You've already proven yourself not to the world, but to life. And that changes everything. Imagine being in a room where people are subtly competing, showing off achievements, possessions, social status. The air feels tight. Everyone is measuring each other. And then there's you, relaxed, unbothered, present. You listen. You smile. You don't feel threatened. That absence of competition creates a calm energy around you. And calm is powerful. Because competition often comes from insecurity. It comes from the fear of not being enough. But after 60, if you've done the inner work, you realize something freeing. You are not behind. You are not ahead. You are simply on your own timeline. That realization brings peace. And peace is magnetic. When you stop competing, you also stop resenting. You stop feeling jealous of someone else's success. Instead of thinking, "Why not me?" you think, "Good for them." That shift softens your heart. It makes you generous with praise. It makes you supportive instead of threatened. Younger people feel safe around you because you are not trying to outshine them. You are guiding them. And guidance is far more powerful than competition. There is something deeply attractive about a person who has nothing left to prove. You don't interrupt conversations to showcase your experience. You don't dismiss new ideas just because they're different from yours. You don't try to dominate spaces. You simply exist with quiet confidence. You understand that someone else's success does not diminish your own, that someone else's youth does not erase your value, that someone else's speed does not invalidate your journey. Life is not a scoreboard. It's a story. And after 60, you care more about meaning than medals. This mindset makes you lighter. Without competition weighing on your heart, you move differently. You speak without tension. You celebrate without envy. You rest without guilt. That inner relaxation is visible. People may not articulate it, but they feel it. They feel that you are not trying to impress them. You are not trying to defeat them. You are not trying to win against them. You are simply at peace with yourself. And in a world constantly racing, the person who has stopped running becomes the most fascinating one in the room. Because when you no longer compete, you are no longer chasing validation. You are choosing presence. You are choosing dignity. You are choosing your own path. And that quiet independence, that freedom from comparison, is incredibly attractive. After 60, the greatest victory is not winning against others. It's no longer needing to. 4. You listen more than you speak. There was a time when speaking felt powerful. When you believed the strongest person in the room was the one with the sharpest argument, the fastest reply, the loudest voice. But after 60, something changes. You begin to understand that real power is not in being heard, it is in making others feel heard. Young people often talk to prove themselves, to show knowledge, to protect their ego, to avoid silence. They speak quickly, sometimes over others, because silence feels uncomfortable. But you've made peace with silence, and that changes everything. After 60, if you've learned to truly listen, not just wait for your turn to speak, you become rare, and rarity is attractive. Imagine this. Your granddaughter is telling you about a mistake she made. She's nervous. She expects a lecture. She expects correction. She expects judgment. But instead, you look at her calmly. You don't interrupt. You don't rush to fix it. You let her finish. In that moment, something powerful happens. She feels safe. And when a person feels safe, they open their heart. Most people today are starving not for advice, but for understanding. They live in a world of noise, social media arguments, constant notifications, people talking at each other instead of with each other. So when they meet someone who listens with full attention, who doesn't check their phone, who doesn't interrupt mid-sentence, it feels extraordinary. Listening is emotional generosity. It says, "For this moment, you matter more than my opinion." And that is deeply attractive. After 60, you don't feel the need to dominate conversations. You don't rush to prove you know more. You've realized something profound. Wisdom does not need to shout. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Think about the time someone truly listened to you during your darkest days. Maybe when you lost someone. Maybe when your marriage was struggling. maybe when your career was collapsing. You probably don't remember every word they said, but you remember how they made you feel. Saying, heard, understood. That feeling stays in the bones. And when you become that person for others, they are drawn to you in a way that goes beyond surface attraction. They trust you. They confide in you. They relax around you. Because when you listen without judgment, you give people something rare: dignity. You allow them to finish their thoughts. You don't correct every detail. You don't turn their story into your story. You simply hold space. And holding space is strength. It takes emotional maturity to resist interrupting. It takes confidence to not constantly insert your own experiences. It takes patience to sit with someone else's pain without immediately trying to fix it. After 60, if you've developed that patience, you carry a quiet magnetism. Your presence says, you can speak here. In a world obsessed with speaking, the one who listens becomes unforgettable. Because people may admire intelligence, they may admire beauty, they may admire success, but they are deeply moved by someone who makes them feel important. And when you listen more than you speak, you don't just attract attention, you attract hearts. And that is a different kind of power. 5. Self-respect without arrogance. There was a time when you tolerated things you should not have tolerated. Disrespect disguised as jokes, being overlooked in conversations, being taken for granted in relationships, giving more than you received and calling it love. You stayed silent to keep peace. You lowered your standards to avoid conflict. You accepted crumbs because you feared losing the whole loaf. But after 60, something shifts deep inside you. You begin to understand that peace without dignity is not peace at all. It is slow erosion. And you decide quietly that you will no longer shrink yourself to make others comfortable. This is where self-respect is born. Not the loud, aggressive kind that needs to dominate a room. Not the arrogant kind that looks down on others. But the calm, steady kind that says, I know who I am, and I will not betray myself. You no longer beg for attention. You don't chase people who ignore you. If someone doesn't call, you don't plead. If someone disrespects you, you don't explode, you adjust your distance. That quiet withdrawal is powerful because it sends a message without shouting. Access to me is a privilege, not a right. And here's the key: you don't insult others to feel superior. You don't attack back. You don't humiliate. You don't try to win. You simply stand firm. That balance is rare. Imagine someone speaking to you with subtle disrespect, cutting remarks about your age, your choices, your pace in life. Years ago, you might have laughed it off while feeling hurt inside, or you might have snapped defensively. Now, you look them in the eye calmly and say, I don't appreciate that. No drama, no anger, just clarity. And if they continue, you reduce access. You don't attend every gathering. You don't share personal details. You protect your energy. That is self-respect in action. Self-respect creates boundaries. Boundaries create dignity. And dignity creates attraction. Because people are drawn to those who value themselves. When you respect yourself, your body language changes. Your posture straightens. Your voice steadies. You don't rush your words. You don't apologize for existing. You take up space not aggressively but naturally. There is something deeply attractive about someone who does not seek validation. You don't need constant compliments to feel worthy. You don't over-explain your decisions. You don't beg to be included. You choose where you belong, and that choice is powerful. After 60, self-respect often comes from lessons learned the hard way. You've been taken advantage of. You've been overlooked. You've given your heart to the wrong people. You've sacrificed too much at times. And those experiences taught you something essential. If you don't respect yourself, others will follow your example. So you stop abandoning yourself to keep others. You speak when necessary. You walk away when necessary. You forgive, but you don't forget your standards. And that quiet firmness makes you magnetic. People may not admit it, but they admire those who refuse to tolerate disrespect calmly. They trust those who hold boundaries without cruelty. They feel safe with those who are secure enough not to compete or belittle. After 60, you realize something profound. You don't need to be louder to be stronger. You just need to be rooted. And when you are rooted in self-respect, not arrogance, not ego, but grounded dignity, you become quietly unforgettable. Because the world may be full of noise, but dignity always stands out. 6. Simplicity. There was a time when life felt complicated. Closets full of clothes, yet nothing felt enough. Busy schedules, yet no real peace. Big gatherings, yet quiet loneliness inside. You chased upgrades, bigger houses, better titles, more recognition. You believed complexity meant importance. But after 60, something shifts quietly within you. You begin to understand that fulfillment does not come from adding more. It comes from needing less. Simple clothes feel comfortable on your skin. You no longer dress to compete. You dress to breathe. You don't check if others approve. You choose what feels honest. And that honesty is attractive. Simple food tastes better because you are no longer eating to impress guests or follow trends. A warm home-cooked meal brings more satisfaction than a luxurious restaurant ever did. Simple routines become sacred. Morning tea in silence, a short walk at sunrise, watering plants, reading without distraction. These moments might look ordinary to the outside world, but to you, they feel complete. And completeness is magnetic. There is something deeply attractive about a person who is not trying to impress anyone. No over-explaining, no showing off, no pretending to be busier or more important than they are. Imagine being around someone who constantly talks about what they own, where they traveled, how much they achieved. There is tension in their energy, a subtle need to prove. Now imagine sitting beside someone who is content with simple pleasures. They speak softly. They laugh easily. They are present. They are not performing. You relax around them because simplicity feels safe. After 60, you've experienced enough to realize that complexity often hides insecurity. People complicate their lives when they are afraid of stillness. They fill every moment with noise to avoid facing themselves. But you are no longer afraid of stillness. You can sit alone without reaching for distraction. You can enjoy a quiet evening without feeling left out. You can say no to events that exhaust you without guilt. That inner quiet creates depth. And depth is beautiful. Simplicity is not poverty. It is not lack of ambition. It is clarity. It is knowing exactly what matters and letting go of what doesn't. You no longer chase every opportunity. You choose the meaningful ones. You no longer try to please everyone. You invest in the few who truly matter. That selectiveness refines your energy. Your home may not be extravagant, but it feels warm. Your wardrobe may not be trendy, but it feels authentic. Your life may not look glamorous online, but it feels peaceful inside. And peace shows on your face. There's a glow that comes from not constantly striving, a softness that comes from not fighting the world, a grounded presence that says, I am enough as I am. People are drawn to that because in a world obsessed with more money, more attention, more status, the person who is satisfied with enough becomes rare. And rarity is attractive. After 60, simplicity is not about giving up. It's about choosing wisely, choosing peace over pressure, choosing meaning over noise, choosing authenticity over performance. And when you live that way, you carry a quiet magnetism, because simplicity signals inner completeness, and a complete person does not chase, they attract. 7. The ability to forgive. There are faces that look older than their years, not because of wrinkles, not because of age, but because of resentment. Holding grudges is heavy. It tightens the jaw, it hardens the eyes, it stiffens the voice. You may not notice it day by day, but over time, bitterness leaves fingerprints on your soul. And after 60, you've had enough reasons to be bitter. You've been betrayed by people you trusted. You've been misunderstood by those you loved. You've been hurt in ways that changed you. Some apologies never came. Some explanations were never given. Some wounds were never acknowledged. You had every reason to hold on. But somewhere along the way, you realized something powerful. Carrying resentment does not punish them. It punishes you. And that realization becomes freedom. Forgiveness after 60 is not weakness. It is not pretending nothing happened. It is not inviting toxic people back into your life. It is choosing peace over poison. Imagine running into someone who hurt you deeply years ago. In the past, your heart would race. Your stomach would tighten. Old anger would rise like fire. But now, you look at them calmly. There is no hatred in your eyes. Maybe there's distance. Maybe there's boundaries. But there is no burning inside you. That is healing. When you forgive, your body relaxes. Your voice softens. Your breathing slows. Your face becomes lighter. And people notice. There is something incredibly attractive about someone who is not carrying invisible wars inside them. After 60, if you've learned to let go, it shows in subtle ways. You don't bring up old arguments in every disagreement. You don't retell painful stories to gain sympathy. You don't define yourself by who hurt you. Instead, you say quietly, "It happened. I learned. I moved on." That emotional maturity is rare. Forgiveness tells the world something powerful. I refuse to let my past control my present. And healed people glow differently. They smile without tension. They laugh without bitterness. They speak without sharp edges. Think about it. When you sit beside someone who constantly complains about the past, you feel drained. Their energy feels heavy. Their words feel repetitive. Now sit beside someone who has suffered but chosen peace. They don't deny their scars, but they don't bleed on everyone either. That is strength. Forgiveness does not mean you forget the lesson. It means you stop carrying the emotional weight. You may still have boundaries. You may not allow certain people close again, but inside, you are not angry anymore. That inner release transforms you. It makes you lighter, and lightness is magnetic. After 60, the most beautiful faces are not the smoothest ones. They are the softest ones. Soft not because life was easy, but because you refuse to let it make you cruel. Forgiveness is attractive because it reflects depth. It reflects growth. It reflects courage. It says you faced pain and chose evolution instead of revenge. And when people look into your eyes and see calm instead of chaos, grace instead of grudges, peace instead of bitterness, they don't just see age. They see wisdom. They see healing. And healing is one of the most beautiful forms of attraction in this world. 8. Purpose beyond appearance. Yes, you may have wrinkles now. Gray hair may frame your face. Your steps may be slower than they once were. Your body may not move with the same speed or strength it had decades ago. But here is what most people don't understand. Energy does not come from youth. It comes from purpose. After 60, if you have a reason to wake up in the morning, you carry a glow that no cosmetic product can create. Think about it. Two people can be the same age. One spends their days complaining about what they've lost, their looks, their strength, their opportunities. The other wakes up with intention. Maybe it's small. Maybe it's quiet. Watering the garden, calling a grandchild to check on them, volunteering at the local temple or community center, reading and learning something new, mentoring someone who feels lost. Outwardly, these actions may look simple, but inwardly, they create fire. When a person lives with purpose, their eyes don't look tired, they look alive. There is something incredibly attractive about someone who has stopped obsessing over appearance and started investing in meaning. Youth often chases admiration. Purpose creates impact. Imagine sitting with someone who talks only about how they used to look, how they used to be admired, how things were better back then. There's nostalgia, but also emptiness. Now imagine sitting with someone who says, "I may be older, but I'm still useful. I'm still contributing. I'm still guiding." That person radiates strength. After 60, purpose becomes deeper. It is no longer about building status. It is about building legacy, guiding grandchildren with stories and values, praying not just for yourself, but for others, sharing life lessons with younger generations, planting trees you may never sit under simply because you care. That kind of purpose expands you, and expansion is attractive. When you live with purpose, your wrinkles become symbols of experience, not decline. Your gray hair becomes a crown of wisdom, not something to hide. Your slower steps become intentional, not weak. You move with direction, and people feel that direction. There is a subtle magnetism in someone who wakes up with something meaningful to do. They don't drift aimlessly through the day. They don't complain about boredom. They don't measure their worth by mirrors. They measure it by impact. And impact energizes the soul. Have you ever noticed how some older people seem more alive than people half their age? It's not their body. It's their mission. Purpose keeps the heart beating with enthusiasm. It keeps the mind curious. It keeps the spirit young even when the body ages. After 60, you realize something profound. Your appearance may change. Your speed may slow. But your value can actually increase. Because purpose makes age irrelevant. When you live for something bigger than yourself, whether it's faith, family, service, or growth, you carry a different kind of beauty. Not surface beauty, soul beauty. And soul beauty cannot fade. It deepens. And when people stand near someone who lives with purpose, they feel inspired. They feel grounded. They feel hope. Because purpose is contagious. And a person with purpose is always magnetic. 9. You're comfortable being alone. This might be the most powerful transformation of all. After 60, if you've reached a place where silence no longer scares you, where an empty room does not feel like rejection, where your own company feels enough, you become unstoppable. Because most people are not afraid of failure. They are afraid of being alone. For years, maybe even decades, you surrounded yourself with noise, family responsibilities, work pressure, social obligations, conversations, conflicts, expectations. There was always someone needing you, or you needing someone. But somewhere along the way, life slowed down. The house became quieter. The phone rang less often. The evenings grew longer. And at first, it hurt. Solitude can feel like abandonment if you don't understand it. But then something powerful happened. Instead of running from the silence, you sat with it. Instead of filling every moment with television, gossip, or distraction, you began to listen to your own thoughts, your own memories, your own heart. And you discovered something shocking. You are good company. After 60, if you are comfortable being alone, it shows in your energy. You don't cling to people out of fear. You don't tolerate disrespect just to avoid loneliness. You don't beg someone to stay who clearly wants to leave. You choose. And choice is powerful. Imagine someone who stays in toxic relationships because they are terrified of sleeping alone. Imagine someone who allows constant disrespect because silence feels unbearable. Now imagine you. You can spend an evening reading quietly. You can go for a walk alone. You can sit on your balcony watching the sunset without feeling incomplete. That independence radiates strength. When you are comfortable alone, you no longer chase attention. You no longer over-explain yourself to be accepted. You no longer shrink just to keep someone around. Because you understand something deep in your bones. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the absence of self-connection. And you have reconnected with yourself. That makes you different. People feel it when they interact with you. There is no desperation in your tone, no anxiety in your presence, no subtle pressure that says, "Please don't leave me." Instead, your presence says, "I enjoy you, but I don't depend on you." That is magnetic. Because when someone does not need you, but chooses you, it feels genuine. After 60, being comfortable alone also means you've made peace with your past. You can sit quietly without being haunted by regret. You can reflect without drowning in shame. You can be still without panic rising in your chest. That emotional stability creates a quiet glow. You don't rush into relationships. You don't chase friendships that feel forced. You don't attend every gathering just to feel included. You are selective. And selectiveness creates value. There is something deeply attractive about a person who is whole on their own. They don't treat others as emotional crutches. They don't drain energy. They don't demand constant reassurance. They offer presence, not pressure. After 60, if you have reached this point, understand how rare it is. In a world addicted to constant connection, the person who is at peace in solitude becomes extraordinary. Because when you are complete alone, every relationship becomes a choice. Every interaction becomes intentional. Every connection becomes meaningful. You are no longer searching for someone to fill a void. You are sharing your fullness. And that is powerful beyond words. A person who is comfortable alone is not isolated. They are integrated. They are grounded. They are free. And freedom is irresistibly attractive. As we conclude, after 60, attractiveness is no longer about appearance. It's about depth, stability, wisdom, peace, self-respect. The world may glorify youth, but life bows to maturity. If you are over 60, understand this. You are not fading. You are refining. And that refinement makes you silently irresistible. If this message touched you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs this reminder. Because after 60, you are not becoming less. You are becoming rare.